Welcome in to Picks and Parlays on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network and also streaming on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. I'm your host, Chelsea Messenger. You can find me every day on Twitter. My handle is just my name, Chelsea Messenger. If you want to drop me a line or a meme or a pick or a parlay, I'm open to all of those. Valentine's Day, it means a couple of things. It means chocolate's going to be on sale the day after, and it also means NBA All-Star Weekend. That's one of the few things that we're diving into on today's show. Some of the bets that you can wager on for the NBA's fun weekend: dunk contests, three-point contests, skills challenge, and of course the game itself, and also their version of the Futures game, the Rising Stars game. We might dive into that as well. We've got Premier League picks when it comes to soccer. Can have some good value on some of those. I took some of our picks, I think it was last week maybe, and I think it was 3 draws, and I think 2 out of 3 of them hit, and all of them were plus at least 200. So those were good winners. We're also talking college basketball with Chip Chirimbes. We're going into a little Maction: Buffalo, Toledo, Akron, Central Michigan, Uic, Wright State, and then we've got the Ivy Leagues, Yale and Princeton. Should be a fun one. Great stuff to get into today. And basketball, well, it can be a little nerve-wracking towards the end, as I've figured out with some of these games when you're waiting on teenagers to hit free throws. And with that note, we'll send it to break. We'll be right back after this, talking NBA All-Star Weekend on Picks and Parlays. To Picks and Parlays on the Sports Byline at Broadcast Network. I am your host, Chelsea Messenger. I'm on Twitter. If you want to shout me a holler, my handle is just my name, at Chelsea Messenger. If you want to find us on social media, we're really easy to find. If you search Picks and Parlays, we're usually the first thing that pops up on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Right now, it's Valentine's Day weekend, which means it's also NBA All-Star Weekend. And we've got several things that you can bet on. Don't worry, just because there's only one game doesn't mean that you can't bet on all the other stuff. We've got three-point contests. We've got the dunk contest and the skills challenge. All right, so we're starting off with the dunk contest. We've got Craig Trapp joining us, and I believe we also have Tony T. Yeah, there they are. You guys ready to talk a little NBA?
Yep.
I'm excited for the All-Star break.
Yeah, hopefully these players are too, because sometimes, especially the dunk contest and some of these other contests, the big name players don't want to play in it. So hopefully some of these B-list players put on a great show. Let's start with the dunk contest. The odds-on favorite in this one is Aaron Gordon of the Magic, as he should be. If you remember his dunk contest in 2016, a lot of people thought he was robbed. He put on an absolute clinic along with Zach LaVine, and it was a great show. We're hoping for more this year. Tony T, let's start with you this time. I always start with Craig, so we'll go Tony T. Who do you like for the dunk contest?
Yeah, I'm going to look here for some value. I know, of course, Dwight Howard's in here, the long shot. I'm not going to go with Dwight, the veteran. I don't think they're going to favor the veteran, the judges. I think we're going to go with Derrick Jones Jr. here at plus 180, 5th season in the league. He's really dazzled NBA arenas with his leaping ability, dunking skills. He's on highlight, but you see him in a lot of NBA highlight films. He was second place finisher in this event in 2017, and I like that left-handed dunk. I think he's going to make some noise here. I'm going to go here with Derek Jones Jr. here at plus 180.
All right, so we've got to talk about Dwight Howard a little bit, just because he's, I think plus 500 is the odds I'm seeing. It could be a little different depending on where you get it. He was the 2008 winner. He also has mentioned that Kobe Bryant was supposed to be in his dunk contest. So I'm wondering if there's going to be some kind of tribute, and he gets sentimental points. Craig, who do you like in the dunk contest?
Well, that's exactly who I like. I like Dwight Howard. I even see it some places anywhere from plus 5 to 1 to 7 to 1. So make sure you shop it around. You're playing futures, all these, or this is like a prop bet, future bet. So you have to shop those around. You can get a lot of different prices. I like Dwight Howard though. I think he will get a little sentiment here. I think the Lakers, of course, with the big season they're having, LeBron and company. I'm guessing LeBron will fill in for Kobe. That's my guess. In whatever capacity that Kobe was going to help Dwight Howard. But I think Dwight's he put on a show before. He is a showman. He does know how to ham it up, and I think that's a lot of this NBA dunk contest. Right.
A lot of it is the props and whoever they use, because I remember when he did it, maybe it was 2008, he used that Superman cape, I believe. I don't know. It was a long time ago. But all right, so let's move on to the three-point contest. Damian Lillard was supposed to be in it, but he's hurt, so it's Devin Booker instead. I don't believe his odds are probably going to be as good as Damian Lillard, because Lillard was the odds-on favorite. Trae Young, Joe Harris, and Duncan Robinson are also all plus 350 is what I'm having here. Tony T, starting with you, who do you like?
Oh, I like Buddy Hield a lot in this at plus 700 odds. I mean, Hield, he's shooting about 39% from three-point distance. And he's attempted the most three-point shots. He has the most practice. He attempted the most three-point shots of any of these players in this contest. There is some reports of tensions between Hield and, of course, his head coach, Luke Walton, that the talented shooter may request a trade. Of course, it would be a great spot to showcase himself to contender. Post a winning result here. Of course, Hield's been hot of late from three. I think he's hit nearly 50% the past 10 games. So I'm going to go with Buddy Hield in this one.
What are the odds you have him at? I have him at plus 700.
I have him exactly that, plus 700. I think it's a very good value on a hot three-point shooter right now who's looking to be moved to a contender.
All right, so you think that he's auditioning for a job. That's a good slant. All right, Craig, what's your take?
I don't mind that Buddy Hield, especially second longest shot. I was really surprised he isn't. I was expecting he'd be about 4 to 1, like my win well as well. But at plus 350, I can't take that. So I'm going to take Joe Harris at plus 400. I think he'll put on a good performance. But really, just when it comes down to the three-point contest every year, just who gets hot? Because if you make 2 or 3 racks in a row, you don't miss one, you're going to end up in the finals, and then who knows? But I'm going to go with Joe Harris at 4 to 1.
All right, let's move on to the skills challenge. Spencer Dinwiddie is leading the way at plus 300. And then it's a lot of people are tied for odds. We've got Jason Tatum, Pascal Siakam, Chris Middleton, Pat Beverly. Who do we like in this one, Tony? Let's start with you.
I'm going to look at the Thunder player, the young guy here, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at plus 450. First round pick in 2018 out of Kentucky, averaging about 19 points a game. Of course, in the skills challenge, it's going to showcase your ball handling, passing, and shooting skills from three. I'm going to go with the youth here. I'm going to go with Gilgeous-Alexander from the Thunder.
All right, Craig. It's the skills challenge. It's a little different than just playing ball, I guess. It's a nice combination. And also, who's going to perform one-on-one when there's, I guess, no defenders? It's a little different than basketball. Who do you like in this?
Surprisingly, the big guys have done really well in this one, but I just don't like Sabonis. I think he would be he's the most skilled big man in this one. But to me, I think Jason Tatum, the way he's been playing this year has been out of his mind. I mean, what a season he's having. At 5 to 1, I think he has a lot of good value. I even see him as low as plus 450, as high as plus 550. But I'm going to just go right in the middle at plus 500. Jason Tatum is going to be my winner for the skills challenge this year.
Big Celtics guy. You really like them, huh?
They've performed well this year.
All right, we'll leave it at that. All right, so I know Tony T wanted to get to the Rising Stars game. Perhaps maybe we can get some value on that. Tony T, why do you want to bet on this one so badly?
I like Team USA here at -4.5. It's just because of the health here. We're looking at the world roster. Their notables here: Luka Doncic, R.J. Barrett. They've returned to action off injuries, and also a big player here, DeAndre Ayton, for the world is out. And of course, you look at the U.S. side: Jay Morant, Kendrick Nunn, Zion Williamson, Trae Young. I just think there's just too much talent on that side. I'll lay the 4.5 with Team USA.
All right, and speaking of the actual game, because obviously we've got to mention it a little bit, it's Team LeBron against Team Giannis, and somebody was telling me that Team Giannis is favored, even though Team LeBron is the one with all the big-name superstars. He's got Westbrook, he's got James Harden, he's got Luka, he's got himself. Can somebody tell me why Team Giannis is favored?
Well, I think these are just the advanced numbers we're seeing. So, I would imagine as we start to hear who's going to play, especially like Luka, some of these guys have come back from injuries. They might be very limited as far as minutes. So I have a feeling maybe this line will get squeezed a little bit, and then it might end up being close to a pick'em game come. But either way, I think it's going to be a good game. The format this year, of course, where the fourth quarter, I think it's the first team in the fourth quarter to score 24 points. Isn't that right, Tony?
The team that's ahead, they add 24 points to their team total, and that's the finishing total of the game for it to end.
Yeah, so, I mean, it will be interesting. I don't know how that's going to affect the game, though. It's a very hard...
The way it is there's motivation to win each quarter because they're going to give a ton of charity dollars to charity for these players. So that's where the motivation is to win each quarter. I'm going to throw in a little MVP odds. I like Trae Young at plus 2,500 odds. Because of the format of this game, you're going to have to play hard for a full 48 or 48 minutes or more, depending on if they can score 24 in that fourth quarter. Plus 2,500 odds. I like Trae Young MVP All-Star game.
All right. We've got all kinds of bets for this weekend. We want to thank both of those guys for coming on. Craig Trapp, Tony T. Both good stuff from both of them. That's our segment on NBA All-Star Weekend coming up. We've got Premier League Soccer on picks and parlays. Stick with us. and Parlays on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network and also streaming on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. If you want to find us on any of those social media platforms, all you got to do is search Picks and Parlays. We're really easy to find. I am your host, Chelsa Messenger. You can find me on Twitter at Chelsa Messenger is my handle. It's my name. And if you want to drop me a comment, go for it. Right now, let's get to some Premier League picks. Talking a little soccer. We've got Nick Geber joining us to talk, what do they call it, the beautiful game?
Well, that's right, Chelsea, the beautiful game indeed. And it's great
Look at
to be
me, I'm
with
an
you.
expert.
I know, look at that already. It's incredible. And I know, Chelsea, I saw you made a comment the other day about how you took a lot of draws. Isn't that right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's definitely something to look at because there are a lot of draws. So if you're going to bet football, the European kind, the global type, and you don't really know what you're doing, then that is a great way to do it because many of these games are draws. Now, we've curated 3 games today in the Premier League, Chelsea, because the Premier League, they've been very happy boys recently because they've actually had, for the first time in many, many years, they've been given a winter break by the Premier League.
Sounds nice.
Yeah, most of the other leagues around the world actually take off 2 or 3 weeks. In Germany, they take off almost a month. But you know those crazy Germans, right? When they're not invading, they're sleeping. They took off just about a month. But what they've done in the Premier League is essentially they've given each team 2 weeks off in February, and they've staggered it so that the league doesn't actually stop. It just goes to a sort of reduced schedule. So we have a fairly full slate of games coming up this weekend, but it's not the full slate of games. You have to wait till the following weekend for it. But there are 3 really nice, juicy games to talk about, Chelsea. Some ones where there is a little dosh in play if you want to wager a few bob here and there.
All right, so let's go. Let's start with the Wolves and Leicester City. Leicester City is having a bit of a tough go of it lately, but they're still plus 153 in this one. Wolves plus 174, and the draw is plus 223. Are we biting on the draw in this one?
Oh, yes, we are, Chelsea. Now, look, this is at Molineux, which is the home for Wolverhampton Wanderers. Leicester City been flying high this season under Brendan Rodgers. This is a really good young squad, full of themselves, very talented, can get a lot done. But, it is a long season. 38 games, and they are definitely, it starts to grind on you if you don't have a particularly deep squad. And of course, Leicester City don't have the deepest of squads. Plus, they've been a little unfortunate in their scheduling over the last few weeks. They have only really lost 6 games all season. That's 6 out of 25. They haven't drawn all that many. They've really been terrific. They've had the unfortunate position, though, in the last few weeks of playing Liverpool twice and Manchester City, and they dropped points to all of them. However, having said that, they've got 2 wins, 2 wins, a loss, and a draw in their last 5. They've come off a boil a bit. Man City have overtaken them in the title race. They're now second, although no one's catching Liverpool. And Wolverhampton Wanderers, look, I really like this side. They play some beautiful football. Sometimes they play football that's too beautiful for their own good and they get beat. They generally play a very nice, expansive, flowing type of game. They've got a couple of great players, Adama Traore being just an absolute wonder to behold. But they've been in trouble the last 6 games. Only 1 win, 3 losses, and 2 draws. But I do like this at Molineux, Chelsea. I like Wolverhampton Wanderers for the draw against Leicester City for a juicy plus 223.
223. Nice value on that one. Let's move on to Arsenal, Newcastle. Arsenal, the favorites in this one, minus 200. Newcastle is plus 484, and the draw is plus 334. So what is the play on this one?
Well, Chelsea, Arsenal shouldn't be the favourites for anything, honestly, except for a new owner, because this team is owned by Stan Kroenke, who I'm sure everyone here in America knows as one of the world's worst sports team owners. And he took a legendary sports club, Arsenal Football Club, and have made an absolute shambles out of them. They tore down their beautiful traditional home, Highbury, put a bunch of luxury flats on there, and built a brand new stadium, the Emirates, which is completely devoid of any footballing soul whatsoever. But they do have a nice stadium. They have a lousy team, though. And they fired Unai Emery earlier on in the season when he wasn't getting it done. They brought in Mikel Arteta, and he's not really getting it done. Arsenal are what we call, Chelsea, draw specialists right now in the league. They have 6 wins, 6 losses, and 13 draws on the season. They find themselves in 10th place. This is a far cry from the once great team that was so far the only invincible team ever in the Premier League. That's right, so far the only team in Premier League history to win the league and never be beat. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. And they are facing a Newcastle United side that has been on a bit of a resurgence, find themselves in solid mid-table. They have 3 draws, a loss, and a win in the last 5. Arsenal have 4 draws and a win in the last 5. Guess what I'm taking on this one, Chelsea?
I'm going to guess the draw.
Well, I think you guessed quite rightly. This has draw written all over it. Look, there's nothing about Arsenal Football Club that I like right now, and I have no bone to pick, no beef to grind with Arsenal. They're not Manchester United. I don't hate them. In fact, growing up, most of my friends were Arsenal supporters, or their parents were on the board of directors and all that sort of stuff. So, been around Arsenal a lot in my lifetime. They're on North London side. But they are just such a disaster of a football club right now. Pierre Aubameyang, who's their best player, is likely to be poached in the summer. We'll have to see what's going to happen. But things do not look good for the Gunners, that's for sure. And for Newcastle United, they've got to be very, very happy campers finding themselves in mid-table, pulling away from that awful gravitational pull of the dreaded, nasty drop zone. Newcastle United look like they are free and clear. They have to get to 40 points. That's 9 more, and they only have 13 more games. I think they should do it, Chelsea. So I'm taking the draw on this one.
Right, and it's plus 334, so that's really good value in that one.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to take all your kids' college fund money, okay? All your rainy day savings money. Take everything, borrow, but max out the credit cards, put everything on. No, don't ever do that, by the way. That's just a joke. No, it's a good, solid bet. Really, Arsenal, an absolute disaster. But Newcastle, I think, still going to have a tough time beating them. So I don't know what that says. Should we move on to the next one?
Yeah, let's do it. Chelsea, Manchester United. Chelsea is minus 113 in this one. Manchester United is plus 325. And the draw is plus 260. What do we like?
Well, I'll tell you what we like on this one. I was going to take the draw, quite frankly, Chelsea, and then I started thinking about this some more. And I remember a few weeks ago, I said I was done giving any picks with Manchester United in them because they were so inconsistent. You just never knew what you're going to get with this Manchester United squad. I mean, Chelsea, this team, Manchester United, in the 2000s, dominated the Premier League. Every year, this team won the Premier League. This was far the best team in England by a long shot. You could guarantee they would be fighting for the title every year. Of course, under legendary manager Sir Alex Ferguson, who, as a Liverpool supporter, I will take my hat off to him. I met Sir Alex a number of times. He's an absolutely delightful, charming man. He was the backbone, the spirit, and the soul of this club. And when he retired, of course, it's just been an absolute shambles. But we see that a lot in Chelsea with many other sports clubs, right? When you have a legendary manager or coach retire, there's always this sort of difficult transition period. Wouldn't you agree?
Right. Mm-hmm. Definitely the case with a lot of teams. And it's hard to fill that void because they're not someone that's easy to replace. And there's a reason that they're legendary because they were there for so long. And then the fan base gets, impatient. We saw that with the Tennessee Vols here close to Nashville. They're in Knoxville. But since Phil Fulmer left, they haven't had a head coach for probably more than 3 years. So I definitely get that sentiment. But let's get back to football. What are you taking in this one?
Well, I'm not there yet, Chelsea. I'm not there. We still got time, don't we? How much time do we have?
We have time.
Okay, all right, because I lost track of time. I'm glad you're keeping track of time because I'm certainly not. Well, okay, maybe I am. All right, we do have time. We've got about 3 minutes here. So, look, let me tell you about this game. Manchester United are an absolute shambles, as I mentioned. They had a nice couple of games where they beat Newcastle United 4-1 at home. They beat Burnley 2-0 away. And then they lost 2-0 to Arsenal, which they should be ashamed of themselves. Then they beat Norwich 4-0, but Norwich are the worst team in the league. My kids' basketball team could beat Norwich 4-0. And then all of a sudden, things went bad. They had that big derby match against their hated rivals, Liverpool, and they lost that 2-0, and then everyone was saying, okay, well, we'll forgive Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, the manager, because, it's Liverpool, and they're the best team in the world right now, and that happens. But it was followed up with a 2-0 loss at home against Burnley. Okay, this was an absolute disgrace. So bad, Chelsea, that the fans walked out in the second half of this game. Old Trafford was empty. This never happens. I cannot remember in my 50-plus years of watching football that ever happened. It did happen. And then, shocker of shock, at Old Trafford, a 0-0 draw against Wolverhampton Wanderers. So Man United are just an absolute, they are a dumpster fire, to put it not too impolitely. And on the other side of the equation, Chelsea Football Club, they're having a little bit of a rough time of late, actually. They've had 3 poor results. They were beaten by Newcastle away. They had a 2-2 draw against Arsenal. I know what I just said about Arsenal, but trust me. And we got a run here, I know. And then a 2-2 draw against Leicester. But Arsenal, Leicester, decent sides. Man United, not. Chelsea, I'm taking Chelsea for the win.
All right. Thanks, Nick, for joining us for those soccer picks. When we get back from the break, we are talking more basketball, this time of the college variety. We're back on Picks and Parlays after the break.
Let's go 51. And we're going to go 14. Hold on, make it 52. I'm going to go 14 minutes. So it's to 16, okay? 6:16. That's 14 minutes, right? Okay, well, I'll do the math here in a minute.
And Parlays on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network, and also streaming on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. If you want to find me, I'm on Twitter. My handle is @Chelsea Messenger. It's my name. If you want to drop me a line. If you want to find us on social media, we're really easy to find. If you search Picks and Parlays, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. On our final segment, our final big segment of the day, we're talking college basketball, because we've got a full slate of games to dive into. We've got Chip Chirimbes joining us to talk a little college basketball. Chip, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Chelsea?
I'm doing good. I'm ready to dive into some of these games. And I see that you have chosen some action games. So always fun. I know for football, it's those weekday games.
Well, this Mid-America contest, the basketball season may go just like the football season goes. Toledo is one of the worst teams in the MAC during the football season. They didn't win. They didn't cover. They weren't competitive. And it's just about the same now. They're 12-13 on the year. Buffalo, like a team that's been playing in the bowls and the football, has done quite a job as well in the cage, 15-9 on the year, Chelsea. They're 4-0 against the points in the last 4 meetings against Toledo. And, there's just something about this, because Toledo is 0-5-1 in their last 6 games overall. But the home team in the series, Chelsea, is 4-1. The favorite in the series is 5-0. And you would think with this kind of record that Buffalo has and the kind of play that the Zips have had, or Toledo Rockets, that is, that it would be an easy walkover for Buffalo. I don't think so, because Toledo comes up the favorite, and I just gave you the numbers and the trends, what happens when between these two. the favorite seems to always prevail. And I think the line is way out of whack. I thought Buffalo would come up the favorite. The fact they're making Toledo a favorite, the odds maker is telling me that I'm wrong. So I would take the Toledo Rockets against my first instinct.
Right, that's almost immediately what I had thought. Just to frame this up, it's Toledo hosting Buffalo. Toledo is -2. The total is 153. But as you were saying, looking at the stats, for most of them, it looks like Buffalo should be the favorites. They've won 4 straight against Toledo. They're 15-9, and they have a pretty good defense. Second in the nation in rebounding, and Devontae Jordan, one of only 5 players in the country with 20 blocks. So it seems fishy, and we've talked about this on the show before.
Exactly. Yes.
To judge the number, if something looks off, you need to really pay attention to it. So when I saw that Toledo was favoring this one, I was shaking my head. Is that
Yes.
good enough to take Toledo?
Well, it's a play. You win or lose, and the worst thing that can happen is you get beat. And we've lost before. I think they're telling you that they're the side. Buffalo is only 1-3-1 in the last 5 meetings against Toledo, so maybe Toledo actually has their number, and they should be favored here. But like you, Chelsea, when I saw this game, my first instinct was, whoa, why is this team favored here? And it is a virtual pick 'em and may go off at pick by game time. So I'll take a shot with the Rockets here, Toledo.
All right, let's move on to Akron and Central Michigan, the fighting Antonio Browns. Akron is favored in this one, -5. The total is 155. Akron is 18-6 on the year, 13-9 against the spread. Central Michigan 13-10, 11-9 against the spread. These are 2 of the top offenses in their conference. Akron 7-1 against the spread away, and they're playing this game on the road. Central Michigan averaging 81 points per game, and 11-2 at home. So who do we like in this one?
Well, here's another situation, Chelsea. Virtually the same. I mean, in the fact that we have a heavy favorite, where it looks like it's not quite justified. Granted, Akron, the Zips are 18-6, which is really good, and 13-9 against the number. They've won their last 2. They're 6-4 on the road, straight up. But Central Michigan, the Chippewas are 11-2 at home, Chelsea. Isn't a team with an 11-2 record in a conference game more apt to try to draw attention? I just think Akron's a much better team this year. The favorite in this series is 10-4. And though Central Michigan does have the home court here, the home team is 5-2. They've lost their last 2 games outright. They have won the last 2 meetings. But I think that Akron is a much better team. I think Central Michigan will be happy to get to the NIT or one of those also ran tournaments that they have at the end of this year.
So who do you like?
I'm going to take Akron. I'll lay the points here. That's 2 games in a row where I'm laying the points.
All right, so let's go on to UIC and Wright State. Wright State is favored by a lot in this one. I have them at -11.5. The total is 148. UIC is 12-14 on the year, 14-10-1 against the spread, but they've won 3 of their last 4. They're averaging a pitiful 67 points per game. Probably why Wright State is favored big in this one. They're 21-5, 12-2 at home, and they are averaging 81 points a game. 11.5 is a lot of points. Are you laying it?
It is, but I really don't want to, but because the dog is 4-1 in the last 5 meetings between these 2, but that 21-5 is a very imposing number, as well as their 12-2 record at home. They're 3-0-1 in their last 4. The Raiders, like I said, this team at home has played so well. They're 11-2 in the conference, and I think they have a domination here. And maybe they don't need this game, Chelsea, as much as anyone else in a tight race in a conference. So maybe Chicago, Illinois, maybe the Raiders, the Flames rather, will sneak in. They're 3-0 in the last 3 meetings. So, and like we said, the dog is 4-1. So I could take the points here. This is double digits points, and who knows? And sometimes it's all a gamble, Chelsea. These teams, like I said before, the depth and the difference between the starters and the Division I and these guys, when the talent falls off, certain teams could really take advantage of others. And this might be the case here with Wright State, who is so much better than Illinois, Chicago. So I would take a chance. I couldn't lay this. It's just in my instincts just says don't do it. Not that I particularly care to play this game, but I would take Chicago, Illinois.
Right. And Chicago, Illinois actually won the last meeting in January. However, they were shooting 49% from the field, which I don't know if they'll be able to replicate because that's a lot. But they won that game by 4. So it's definitely a possibility that they could win outright. So when you're talking that many points, it's tough.
It should give them confidence, of course, knowing that they already defeated this team as good as they are. I mean, so they go in, they know they can beat this team, whether they believe they can beat them on their home floor. That's another story, and you have to perform. So we'll see what happens. And Wright State has to perform as well because this Horizon League isn't going to get much respect, and they're no show-in to get to the NCAA unless they win the conference tournament.
Right, and they'll have to perform very well if they're going to cover. Because that means if they're going to win by that many points, that means that they really need to blow them out because you've got to consider garbage time. So
exactly.
We've got one more game on the schedule, I believe. Princeton and Yale.
I'm loving this one. Yes.
All right. Yale favored in this one, -4.5. Total is 137.5. Princeton is 10-9 on the year, 5-1 in the conference, 10-8 against the spread. Yale 17-5, 5-1 in the conference, and 15-5 against the spread. So they're kind of hot when it comes to against the number. So who do you like in this one?
Well, they're deservedly a favorite on the road here. This Princeton team isn't the same of years past when they would dominate the Ivies along with Penn. Nowadays, you've got a new faction coming in, and Yale is one of the better teams, and they have been for the last couple seasons. They're 4-1 in the last 5 games, both straight up and against the points, playing Princeton. I like that. And they're 8 against the points on the road. Like you mentioned, Chelsea, they're 15-5 against the number. That's an outrageous 75% winning percentage. Favorite between these two has been dominant. When Princeton had the hammer, they would take out the Bulldogs. And this time, it's Yale taking it to the Tigers. 19-7 the favorite in the last, 28 meetings. So I see Yale coming here. I'm a little partial to Yale, having gone to school in New Haven. But I think they're a better team than Princeton, and Princeton's just going to be another one of these struggling Ivies. So you're surprised they even put lines on these games. Chelsea, years ago, the Ivies were the only game that the only league that would be playing on Friday nights, and they barely even had point spreads on these games because there was so little information on them. But of course, the way things are now, Yale is a 4.5 point on the road, and I'll lay it before I take it. I'll take the Bulldogs.
Yale's the Bulldogs, correct?
Yes.
I need to memorize my Ivy League mascots a little better, I guess.
If you look at the football uniforms, I was going to say, if you look at the football uniforms, Chelsea, the Tigers have, Princeton has tiger stripes on their uniforms.
Oh, yeah, they have that P with the tiger print, don't they?
Yeah. Well, they used to have these sleeves where they would have tiger stripes going down the sleeves. And they were the last team to be playing with a single wing in NCAA action, but those days are gone as well.
Okay, so let's talk about some of these lines and the fact that you chose some of these games that aren't the marquee matchups. Are the lines a little less sharp when it comes to games like the Ivy Leagues, like the MAC games? And is that the reason you chose some of these?
I chose this because I have an affinity for this Yale team this year because I know how well they do and I follow them. I usually don't follow teams that aren't marquee matchups. I'm looking for, the LSU and Auburns and Kentuckys and things along those lines. But I always like the matchup in the Ivies because you're going to see good, smart heads-up basketball. Maybe the talent level isn't as great, but you're going to see a good game of basketball, and I appreciate it. And that's why I got rid of Siena and we used the Yale Princeton game today.
I think. Go ahead.
What's that? No, I was going to say what we should
be
talking about.
I thought you were talking.
I was about the Astros and Red Sox. You're a baseball person. You should be happy to talk about this.
Oh, man. Did you see their apology? And I put that in quotation marks because it didn't seem like an apology at all.
Well, someone had said to me just the other night, why would the Red Sox get rid of Mookie? Why would they get rid of Mookie? And I said, he hit 375 when he knew what pitch was coming. And the next year, when he didn't know what pitch was coming, he was hitting 247 at the All-Star break. So maybe they know there's a difference when Mookie knows what he's going to get and when he doesn't know what he's going to get. You've seen the home run derby. They know it's coming. They hit 47 balls in a row outside the stadium. So these guys are good, Chelsea. If they know what's coming, they're going to hit it. And particularly when they're at the talent level like the Red Sox and the Astros were those 2 seasons they won. But I think a huge, huge definite advantage.
Right. Jim Crane was saying that it wasn't an advantage. And one of the reporters was really kind of giving him hell for it because if it was an advantage, if it wasn't giving them an advantage, why were they doing it? Is what
and
I
you know
would
what,
like to know.
You know baseball, and how about when you're on the bases? If you know that there's the curveball's coming, you're going to get a break and steal a base more often than if you think the fastball's coming. And it has happened with 2 base stealing bases. These guys are running in situations where nobody out and a man on second, and he's stealing third base. Well, that sort of breaks the cardinal rules of baseball. And the Astros were doing that a lot that season they won. And I think it's a huge advantage. I think these guys are trying to play it down, but I think it's bad for baseball.
Oh, for sure. And the way that the Astros have handled it has not been good. We've got to wrap it up. I could talk all day about that, about baseball. But yeah, thanks for Chip. Thanks, Chip, for coming on for our college basketball picks. When we get back from the break on Picks and Parlays, we're recapping all of today's picks. Stick with us. We're back after this.
Thank you, Chelsea.
And we are back on Picks and Parlays on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network and also streaming on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. If you search Picks and Parlays, we're really easy to find. It's been a show packed with all kinds of info for you sports bettors. We started off with the NBA All-Star Weekend, and right now we're going to recap all of today's picks in case you weren't paying attention or if you're just now joining us. We've got you covered, starting with NBA All-Star Weekend. We did the Rising Stars game, which Tony T likes USA -4.5. The Skills Challenge, Gilgeous Alexander of the Thunder, that's who he likes to win the Skills Challenge. 3-point contest, Buddy Hield at +700, a great value there. And then the dunk contest, he likes Derek Jones at +180. Team LeBron, Team Giannis in the actual All-Star game. He likes Team LeBron at +4.5. And All-Star MVP likes Trae Young at +2,500. Moving on to Nick Geber's EPL picks. He likes the draw in Wolves, Leicester City. He also likes the draw in Arsenal, Newcastle. And then Chelsea, Man United, taking Chelsea in that one. Moving on to some college basketball picks from Chip Chirimbes. He likes Toledo +2. He also likes Akron at -5 against Central Michigan. UIC at Wright State, taking Wright State -11.5. And Yale at Princeton, taking Yale at -4.5 in the Ivy Leagues. Great show today, as always. And if you want more, we're here every weekday on Picks and Parlays. If you want to join us for all your sports betting needs. That's going to do it for today's show. We'll see you next time on Picks and Parlays.